Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, cyber hacks took down some big Canadian companies. What's most surprising is how predictable that is. Plus, massive targets for immigration present an opportunity, but also a real challenge. We will explore both. And a new tax on share buybacks and why it's not the worst idea ever. That's all ahead. First, though, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. Inflation in the U.S. moderated slightly in September, and while 7.7% is high by any measure, markets shot up on enthusiasm that central bank rate hikes are having the intended effect of cooling inflation. It's premature to rule out any more hikes in the U.S. as the cost increases of things like groceries and gasoline remain in the double digits. Meanwhile, Canada's central bank said this week it remains committed to higher rates until the labor market loosens. Another way of saying unemployment rises. Meanwhile, a growing number of Canadians filed for insolvency in September. Consumer insolvencies were up 22.5% in the three-month period, rising at the fastest rate in 13 years. Business insolvencies also rose, but in both cases, the numbers are still below pre-pandemic levels. The concern is that as supports roll off, the picture will only worsen. A meeting between federal and provincial health officials ended in stalemate this week. The provinces are looking for sizable increases in the federal health transfer on top of planned top-ups. The feds say they are willing to send money, but want two new measures agreed upon. One to create a federal data management system and the other to address labor gaps in healthcare. The tone wasn't pleasant.
Premiers are preventing all of us health ministers from taking concrete and tangible steps that would make an immediate difference in the daily life of health workers and patients.
Parents with sick kids have an extra worry on their minds these days, a shortage of medications and a key antibiotic. Health Canada confirmed that 4 manufacturers of amoxicillin have reported shortages. That comes amid an ongoing scarcity of supply of children's Tylenol and children's Advil. That's as respiratory illnesses among young people soar post-COVID. Facebook's parent, Meta, became the latest big tech firm to lay off staff. In Meta's case, 11,000 people globally, or 13% of its workforce. CEO Mark Zuckerberg apologized and admitted the company had erred in its hiring spree. The layoffs affect Canadian workers, though Meta isn't saying how many will be let go here. Several cyber attacks struck large Canadian firms this week. Maple Leaf Foods found its systems were subject to what it described as a cybersecurity incident. And Empire Company, owner of Sobeys and Safeway grocery stores, wouldn't confirm that its network was struck by a cyber attack, but it did acknowledge widespread system issues. And those are your business briefs. Money was certainly one of the issues on the table when federal and provincial health ministers met this week. It wasn't the only issue, though. Big shortages of nurses and doctors was also one of them. The talks ended in something like a stalemate, and the feds suggest, or at least seem to suggest, that the ball is in the province's court. Adrian Dix is the Minister of Health from the province of British Columbia. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, great to be on the show, Amanda.
So we do not have an agreement. There will be an increase in the health transfer because it's geared to inflation, so there's that. But it's not what you were looking for. What were the big issues between the two?
Well, on Monday, we met and we had very significant issues that we dealt with together on health human resources, on the COVID-19 pandemic, on mental health and substance abuse issues. So we dealt with lots of significant issues. However, on the issue of the Canada Health Transfer, the premiers have been asking for a First Minister's conference now for about 12 months. The federal government has consistently not just not said no, but not responded to that. On Monday, as we were just about to have our first press conference, they suggested that there would be more money in the Canada Health Transfer under possibly, and they suggested certain conditions. The health minister came out, federal health minister came out, didn't say what money would be on the table, didn't talk in any detail about any conditions. In fact, didn't talk about it at all. And obviously, we raised those questions and asked about them. So it was a little disappointing. And then at the end of the day, they chose not to take part in the joint press conference. So it was a little unusual, I would say, a bit of a mystery what their approach is. But what's needed, clearly, because you talk about inflation, is that healthcare inflation runs well above the regular rate of inflation. And inflation is, to say the least, highly unstable right now. What we're seeing is a continued decline in the federal share of health spending, which has impacts on every doctor, every nurse, and of course, every patient in Canada.
This is actually the key place that most of us have felt this problem, and that is a shortage of staff, an inability to get a GP. These are real and pressing issues people encounter every day. What are some of the initiatives that you're proposing to try to resolve this, and is it a national strategy? Is it important that it be a national strategy?
Well, what's important is that the federal government, on a program that was initially intended to be a 50-50 partnership, and it's just Canada, right? The federal government has the spending power, and the provincial governments have the jurisdiction. This is Canada, and this is how we come together. The federal government needs to contribute to that, or there's going to be continued pressure on health systems everywhere in the country. They have that obligation, and we've asked them to come to a meeting, and they keep refusing to do that. With respect to the issue of access to a family doctor, in BC, a week before this conference, we put in place a new agreement with doctors, and we developed it with doctors in our province to change the way we deliver primary care in the province. It's been very well received. It, of course, costs money, $704 million in the third year. That's an annualized cost here in BC. But it's also a significant step to changing a system that wasn't working, a fee-for-service system that wasn't working, and reflected the work doctors do and the care patients need. So there are significant actions on doctors taking place, on nurses, on allied health professionals, on healthcare workers in every province. The federal government's principal role in healthcare, of course, is financing. And that's why we have the Canada Health Transfer, which has declined over decades in this country as a share of healthcare spending. And if that continues to happen, there's really a threat to public healthcare. And that's why the premiers have been raising this issue for a year. And I do not know for the life of me why the Prime Minister won't come to a First Minister's meeting and talk about it.
And there was, as you say, something a little bit odd about how this all kind of resulted this week. We only have 30 seconds here, Minister, but are the provinces willing to have conditions on that money? In other words, if the feds want more transparency or a data management system, are you willing to have those conditions attached to higher health dollars?
There's more access to data now, but, you know, when you're going to make a proposal, Prime Minister came out on Monday and said they're interested in increasing the Canada Health Transfer. You'd think they'd tell us what the proposal is. And I'll tell you, I'll meet with them at noon on Boxing Day if we can make progress on this. You know, I think Canadians are tired of anybody squabbling about something so important as public health care.
Yep.
Demonstrated its value in the pandemic, and you bet everyone's concerned with it. So I say let's get on with it.
Minister, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you. Anytime, Amanda.
Adrian Dix is Minister of Health for British Columbia. Coming up, Canada is tracking to some ambitious targets for immigration. That can be very good for the economy, but it comes with challenges too. Stay with us.